Hey, welcome to Feeling Twisty, episode 54. I have a cool story to tell you about that happened today. So I have 5 kids. Only 2 of them were not adults. So one of my adult children is planning a trip going to Cabo with his girlfriend next week, leaving Sunday. So anyway, he texted me today and told me that his girlfriend called him and was very upset because she didn't have, that her paycheck that came in today wasn't as much as she had hoped it would be. She didn't have enough to cover her car note and pay bills, specifically the car note mainly, and definitely didn't have money to pay for the trip to Cabo. The tickets have already been bought, but everything else, she just didn't have the money, and she was freaking out. And my son said, I wrote down what he wrote, so I'm going to read it to you. He said she didn't have the money for the car note or Cabo. And my son told her that I believe you do have the money. And he told her, I can imagine for you that you have money for Cabo. And I didn't get into the details on what he imagined. And I don't think he did. He didn't really do a scene or anything, or he just told her, it's going to be fine. I believe you have the money for Cabo. And then he tells me just a few minutes later, he gets a call back from her, and she got a call telling her that her car note had already been paid, and it was paid for the next month too. So now she's got no car note for this month and next month, and she has money for Cabo. I was so thrilled when I heard that because my kids, my children just haven't been super receptive. They are more and more now, but they don't listen to the podcasts. Of course, I don't know if I would listen to podcasts that my dad does when I was 15, 17, 20, 21, regardless of what he was talking about, unless maybe he was talking about Star Wars or something like that. So anyway, my kids I don't really talk to them much about what I talk about on the podcast. I do naturally, in a natural way, because it's how I live. And so of course it comes up because that's who I am, and that's how I talk, because that's what's inside me, and that's what I am. That's what I'm being. So there's no way for me to avoid it because it just naturally comes out in conversation. In fact, they'll say, sometimes in the past, they'll bring up a problem or something, and then they'll tell me, and they'll look at me and see me take a breath about the talk, and one of them will say, I know what to do. And this particular son, though, he's his own man. Growing up, he never was thrilled with church, never really wanted to go, never was into the Bible or listening to anybody preach anything at church, never really believed that, and had wanted nothing to do with it. And he and I talked a lot about this, the power of awareness, the power of imagining, and the consciousness of being who you want to be, all of these things, back when he was in the hospital after his motorcycle accident. So I got to just dump a lot of stuff into him over a year ago. But other than that, we haven't really discussed much about this. At first, I noticed I was coming off kind of preachy in the beginning, feeling like I had to be the witness. I had to proselytize everywhere I went, and certainly my family. I had to fix my family. I had to teach them this. And then I had gotten to a point where I was wanting them to get this, to understand this through their experiences of their own. And one day I noticed that what I really was wanting was to prove it to them. I was thinking, I want them to get this on their own But what I was really wanting was prove it to them. I'm going to prove it to them. And then that's why things just seemed that never really worked out way back then. Because what I was imagining was having to prove it to them. I had to prove something to them. And then at one point, I realized that I don't have to prove anything to anybody. There's no one for me to whom I need to prove anything about this. The only thing I need to do is decide what I want or who I want to be and be that in my own being, in my consciousness, in me. Just like I am aware of me being Mike, and I'm aware of being a father, a super father. I'm aware of being a loving husband and a loving father. And so I changed from trying to prove that to my kids, where I need to prove it to them, to just, what do I want to experience? I want to experience their thrill and their fun and of them experiencing this. And that's all I did. One day I just asked myself, what would it feel like? How would I feel knowing that my kids are getting this, that they're living wonderful, lovely lives, that they're just kicking butt because they know this secret. They know what to do and have been doing all along, unintentionally, unknowingly. So what would that feel like? And I just knew it was done. I knew. I felt that feeling inside. What would it feel like to experience them getting this? And I just let it go. I knew it was done. And anytime, my kids, they complain all the time. Not really, but there'll be a problem, something at school, a teacher, work issues. So I didn't stop imagining lovingly for them or think, what the hell? I've already went into imagination. I accepted that as true, that they've got this. Why aren't they getting this? No, I didn't do that. If I thought about that again, then I just brought that back up. Like, yeah, my kids are getting this. And just continued in that feeling, regardless of what they were saying. Especially the older kids, they really didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so me pushing it on them would have done nothing but add to more frustration on my part. I would experience the frustration. So I just knew they would get it, that they have it. And I experienced that thrill a ways back. That wonderful feeling of, oh yeah, they've got this, they're getting this, look at them go. And then today is one example. I've seen it with my other children a number of times, but this is really cool coming from this son, because we hadn't really talked about it a whole lot. Like I said, back when he was in the hospital over a year ago. But to see this happening in his life and unfolding, and he texted me. The first thing he said was, "Hey, you want to hear some really cool, some really cool stuff?" And I said, "Sure." And then he told me the whole story. And I told him, texted back, I said, "Wow, man, you're an imagination master," or something like that, something silly, goofy like that. But he was thrilled with it. He's so thrilled at how easy it really is. And I know I've talked about what Neville talks about a lot, using imaginal scenes and, creating a scene in your imagination to bring up that feeling that it's done, that you are experiencing it, that you are who you want to be, or you do have what you want in your life. And for a while, and I've mentioned this before, in the beginning, I was very rigid. It has to be this way. Can't be any other way. And then there was that point where I realized that that's just another tool. That's just another method to get into that beingness, to move from thinking of my wish, thinking of what I want to be, what do I want to experience, thinking of it as out there in the future someday, or thinking of it as out there impossible for me. I don't have the training for that. I don't have the head for money and, all these things that instead of thinking of it as separate from me and unattainable or in the distant future, moving that into thinking from it and living in it, being that experience already experiencing that it's done. Because I know from my own experience now that regardless of the tools I use, I've never tried tapping or staring in the mirror, or all these other techniques and things I've seen online and heard about. Regardless of the techniques, it's what you are conscious of being. And that's what I've experienced. It's when it comes down to what do I not just want for me, what do I know I am? Because what I'm conscious of being at this moment is what I'm experiencing. The entire world, what I experience is what I'm conscious of being. And I've seen dramatic changes, huge changes, immediately. Immediate things change. And I used to always think, okay, and even though I was, getting into the feeling of the wish fulfilled and all of that, there was at some point I noticed I'm saying it and I'm feeling it, but really I'm still conscious of the lack. I'm still conscious of it's not here. That's where I'm dwelling. That's what I'm being. I'm being that guy that still has lack and still is seeing it in the future. For me, it took, I can't remember, I don't know how long it took, but it seemed like forever to get this bit of understanding where, in the Bible it says God is not mocked. Well, your own awareness, who you are, you can say affirmations and write stuff down and wait till 11:11 or 12:12 or 3:33 or 8:88. You can do all these things, but if you're not truly aware of being that, having it in you, as you, then it's not going to work. It was, for me, there's the perpetual construction, deferred occupancy, like Neville says. Even when I thought I was doing it right, there was one day I noticed, wait a second. I need to be completely honest with myself. Do I really believe that? Because if I really believed that I have that I was thinking about, that I'm experiencing that, if I really believe that, and I really believe that what I am aware of being is that, then why do I have this particular thought or these doubts running like a subroutine in the background? Why am I still thinking that? Why am I reacting this way? Why am I perpetually reacting this way? Every day something happens and I still have that little reaction. What's going on? And so I took a look at myself, like I always say to do, what Neville says to do. Take an uncritical look at your life. And what are you imagining? What's going on in your brain? What are you thinking about? Am I still identifying myself as the guy that has a bunch of regrets and wishes he had been a better father, better provider? Oh, I am still being that guy. I'm being that guy, trying these tools, trying to become the other guy. the super dad. Oh, sneaky. There it is. And I noticed that I really wasn't being the new person, this new state. I wasn't experiencing it and really believing and knowing, just as I know I'm Mike. I had to look behind the curtain of the tools I always talk about using, imaginal scenes and assuming it's done. It has to be done this way. I got to wait and do it in the silence, when I get up in the morning or midday, or I have to run to the bathroom, run the faucet so I don't hear anybody in the hallway, and I can focus and I can imagine my scene and all of these things that Neville talks about and I talk about and so many people talk about. I was doing all that, but still I was doing it from the state of my old state, who I did not want to be anymore. I was still being that guy, trying to fix stuff, and things still happened. I still saw changes and things did happen because we're all imagination, or we're all, there's awareness, and the awareness of being who you are. You is all there is. So whether, Neville calls it imagination, and some people see that as something separate. It's just imagination is just what you do for fun, or, just fancy, you're just daydreaming. But he identified imagining as your awareness of being. So whether you want to call it awareness of being, or talk about consciousness, or use imagining, it's who you are. And for a while, I noticed that, I'm still the lacking guy. I'm the guy with regrets and hopes of one day, and not really making that move in consciousness into actually being that. It was very, very nuanced. I think I'm making this clear. I hope I am making it clear. But for a while, when I really thought I was doing it, until I stopped and just said, took a look at myself. And what am I really, if I'm really doing it like I say to do it, like I've talked about how I've been successful with it, and if I'm really doing it, then why are other things not happening? Because I'm not really conscious of being that person, conscious of experiencing that here, right now, already done. I was still putting it ahead of me. I'm going to be that person one day. One day they'll see it. One day I'll see it. One day. It's just very, very thin line there for me. But in the motion from the old state of awareness, this state of being, to what I really wanted to be, what I thought I was being, but I really wasn't. I was looking at it. I was thinking of it. And you can continue to dwell in a state of lack and live in the way you've been living, lacking love and lacking joy, lacking money. And you can still bring about things in your life. Manifest. I say manifest, but I don't mean creating it out of nothing or bringing it out of somewhere that it didn't once exist, because everything exists. You just need to change your consciousness. What are you aware of being? But let's just say manifest for now. You can still manifest things. Money, happiness. You can manifest a relationship. But if you're still dwelling in that state of I don't get good relationships, nothing lasts for me, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that relationship that you manifest, it's not going to work out. Not if you're still dwelling in that state of I always have crappy relationships, or men are pigs. Women are just, always out to get my money. Whatever it is. And you hear stories of people winning big sums of money, winning the lottery, and then they're flat broke 6 months later. This is just an example. I'm not using anybody in particular, so I'm not judging anybody. But I would say that one person that comes into any large sum of money and then is completely, flat broke 6 months later, had never moved out of the old state of lack. Yeah, I used to be there. Anytime I would manifest money. Oh, whoa, that's a nice chunk of money. But I would immediately start worrying about, oh crap. Okay, it's going to disappear fast. I got to hold on to it tight because I don't know when I'm going to get it again. I would start contradicting what I thought I believed. Oh yeah, here's the money. Oh crap, here it goes. And so if you're still dwelling in the old state of lacking whatever it is that you're wanting, lack of love, money, happiness, a new house, whatever you're dwelling in is what you're going to keep getting. So even if you manifest a relationship or money, if you're still in that old state, it's not going to work. You're going to keep beating your head against the wall, and then you're going to look for more people to listen to, find another podcast, find another YouTube channel, or subscribe to some, notes from the universe or whatever. You're going to go searching again because you're going to think, I didn't get it right. I'm not doing it right. Or you're getting the mechanics right to get what you want. You got a relationship, you got money. But wouldn't it be more fun and thrilling if you go all the way with this? Like Neville talks about in The Pearl of Great Price. I'd never understood those verses, that story in the Bible until I listened to Neville, that particular lecture. Do what that merchant did. If you're not familiar with it, Jesus is quoted in the Bible as saying that the kingdom of heaven is like a pearl of great value. And there was a merchant who found this pearl. And he went and sold everything he had. He let go of everything to buy this pearl. And I always thought, when I grew up, I was taught that meant sell off, don't sell your earthly possessions. I was told, give your money to the church. That's what Jesus meant. Give your money to the church and to charities to make yourself feel better. And then you'll make it to heaven. We were always taught, kingdom of heaven is coming one day out there in the future after JC and the boys come down on the white horse and we go up with them and all that stuff. No, but what it's saying is the kingdom of heaven, which is within you, is like that. When you find it, when you realize that you have the power and wisdom of God within you, and you don't just have it like a tool, you are it. There's not two beings inside of you. You are you. There's not two of you inside there. You are the creator of your heaven and earth. Heaven within and your earth is you, what you're experiencing. So when you realize that and you get it, that pearl, that's you. That's the power within you. And you go all in and not selling your earthly possessions. He's talking about getting rid of all the things you held on to, holding on to things at the church or holding on to rules that you have to live by. What does conventional wisdom say? Well, screw conventional wisdom, because that's the stuff you get rid of. You get rid of the things that say you don't have the right education. And you get rid of the things that say you have to do whatever it is, whatever you think that you've been having to do outside of you to obtain this. Drop all of it. Astrology, tapping, tarot cards, scripting, whatever you think that you have to do. For me, I've noticed when there's things I felt like I have to do it to get this, I started dropping those things. I'm continually selling off my goods, selling off what I have, getting rid of it, dropping it. Dropping it initially was dropping the old religion I was brought up in. Dropping that, dropping help from others, that I need advice from others and borrow money from here and beg and plead for stuff here and there. And to drop all of it. So I say go all in instead of just using these tools to get things in never moving states, never moving into a new dwelling place, a new state of being. I got tired of that and went all in and bought the pearl. Why don't you try it? Wouldn't it be cool if instead of remaining where you are and just using this like I used to as an imaginal hammer or a screwdriver, fixing things and getting things, buy the pearl, dump all the things you think you need outside of you and look to the only place within yourself. You don't need me. You don't need another YouTube channel, although there are a few good ones out there. You don't need another book. You have had this power within you. You have been this power all along. All along. And then you can say, like Paul said, and I'm going to change it up a bit in Philippians 4:12, I know how to be broke, and I know the secret to being rich. I know how to be sick, and I know how to be healed. I know how to be low and crawl on my belly and grovel and beg and plead and be inferior. And I know how to soar. I've been taught this secret. I can do all of these things. The good, the bad, the wonderful. I become rich. I become poor. I remain hungry and I become full, all with the same power that strengthens me. And Paul calls it Christ. And Christ, he defines Christ as the power and wisdom of God. That's you and that's me. So if you don't like how you're doing it, you don't like what you're experiencing, ask yourself like I did, well, what am I identifying myself with? What am I dwelling in? Am I still that guy that lacks things and still looks for the future? Maybe one day. No more one day. No more hope so. Be that person you want to be. And whatever you're thinking of right now, if you're thinking at this moment, yeah, but that's kind of crazy. I challenge you to be crazy. Don't just imagine something that, oh yeah, well maybe I could do this. What do you really, really want? What do you really want to do? What do you really want to experience? Think of it that way. Get rid of any rules. Get rid of anything that tells you can't do it. Anything, even if it's something that says you need a college degree or that you need to be in a different country. None of that matters. None of it. Ask yourself, what do I want to experience? What do I really want to experience? Oh, yeah. And you become that. For me, I ask myself internally, well, what's that feeling like? What would it feel like to be that? Fall in love with that state, being that. Give your whole self over to it and become that person. And when you are that person and you're dwelling in consciousness, when you're seeing the world from that new state of being, your world changes automatically. So go crazy. No matter what it is, no matter who's told you that it's crazy, that it's impossible. What do you really, really want to experience? Yes. Now, come on, email me your stories. I want to hear some good stuff from you. feelingtwisty@gmail.com. All right, guys, I love you. This is Feeling Twisty.